So Flo Spos. Welcome back, everybody. This is your boy Benny Swella back with you. Episode 3 of So Flo Spos. Really want to take out the time to thank you guys if you're here. This is the third episode, and I'm thankful for you guys just listening to me, especially if you want to hear about the Dolphins or just genuine crap. I'm changing things up a little bit. I found that the last episodes were just weird, just too to the point, too analytical, not enough, like talking shit and just getting something out of it that you wouldn't with other people. I do try to be as analytical as possible, especially with why I think the way I do. I'm very outlandish. I'll say some funny things or some crazy stuff that's very strong. I think that modern day sportscasters they take the middle road and they play it safe. And I just that's not who I am. That's not who I'm gonna be. That's not the type of material I want to put out. And hopefully, you whoever's listening to this, it at least resonates somehow with them, whether you like it or you don't. It's just an opinion. I'm gonna try to back things up as much as I can, however I can. I am gonna change the format. I feel like the Dolphins, who are the reason why I even began this podcast, things are just so downtrodden that, like, I don't know. It's not fun to go over how bad this team is. I'm going to because it's the team that I love and that I'm trying to change, but I'm going to be hypercritical. This team has been very bad for so long, and like they don't deserve any type of leeway. Like we need to point out the issues. I've been reading up a lot about what's going on and just looking at different things, and I've heard some things, and it always to me goes back to one thing, and it'll be the central point of a lot of our conversations. It's actually been the central point to a lot of conversations we've already had on different episodes, on previous episodes. Mostly all of them are going to center around Chris Grier and the acquisition of talent, or the lack thereof. And I think that the core of where that resonates the most is actually, ironically, the team's offensive core, the offensive line. I think that team or that unit is bereft of talent, so much so that they patchwork that they've attempted, drafting Jonas Ivainaya and also Patrick Paul. I just don't think that, Patrick Paul is at least serviceable up to this point. I just don't think there's enough tape on him to be sure. But at least he's graded positively in some games. But I'll be honest, it's hard to root for to say that anyone on that offensive line is doing well. I don't see it. I'll be quite honest. Something that kind of disqualifies me more than anything. Maybe I shouldn't admit it, but this year I've watched like even less football, specifically Dolphins football, than I ever have. Like I feel beat down. There was times on Sundays where I wouldn't miss a second. That I would get mad if someone asked me to do something. Go to church, go anywhere, do anything on a Sunday at 1 p.m. was going to be a problem for me. I was going to be glued to that television, and it was going to be, fun for me. I was going to be screaming, hollering, acting a fool. And it just really hasn't been that for me, at least for the last 2 years. I will admit that when we got Tyreek Hill, I got really excited. And then when I saw what happened in the Ravens game, where we came back and it was one of the greatest games I've ever seen the Dolphins play, pretty much one of the few comebacks that we've ever, had that just was incredible. And then we put up that 70-point game. I'll never forget that game. Never. Absolutely never. I think at that point, I turned. I started believing in Chris Grier, or the madness that, he had put together. But it was for naught. It was fugazi. It was fake. It was not a true barometer of this team. The reality was, a lot of people speculate what the reason is for the sudden change, but I don't. It hasn't really been a sudden change. It's just been a going back to normal after an outlier, a year that was out of the ordinary. And I think that what was different then that isn't happening now, or what's different then from now, is that our offensive line during that year played very well. Austin Jackson was in a career contract year, so he was playing, as best as he could. We had a Pro Bowl left tackle in Teron Armstead, who was our anchor. You could tell every time he was in the game, we were much better running the ball and passing everything. Because if you're better running, you're gonna pass better. You're gonna put less pressure on Tua, which I think is the ultimate issue. But the ultimate issue is the O line because that's the reason for the pressure on Tua. I think right now Tua is crumbling under the pressure, under the literal physical pressure of the pass rush, and he's also dwindling in the media. I feel like he's more aggressive than he's ever been, and having that kind of attitude, it may when you let it feed your desire to succeed, and it creates positive results. That's good, like. But right now, it doesn't seem like that's what's happening. Right now, he seems very like edgy and like kind of pissed off when he speaks to the media and the things that are asked and said by either Omar Kelly or Cam Newton or whoever it may be. And, I just don't think that those outside problems are going to lead to on field success. So that means to me that he's distracted. He's thinking about other things instead of focusing on football. And I think that he's faltering, and I think that everything else is, kind of falling down around him. People are losing faith in him. It seems like Tyreek Hill has lost faith in him, or just there's something weird there. Nothing's come out, but it smells weird. I believe in Tua. Tua is a great game manager, but I don't think he'll succeed on this team because there's no way for him to protect himself. They're not protecting him. They're not giving him enough time to throw. And I think it's evident. But the problem is, at least from what I see, is that everyone is skirting around this topic. All social media, I mean, or just regular media, the sports pundits. I have a specific podcast that I love to listen to, South Florida podcast, and they're great. But I see them do it too. They're homers when it comes to these picks and these players. Like Kenneth Grant. I'll be honest, Kenneth Grant is looking like a bust every freaking game. But you know what? Maybe I'm wrong. Like I said, I haven't watched as much as I used to. Like I used to watch every minute. I don't think I've watched a full game yet this season. I'll be honest, I didn't even watch the end of the first half of the Colts game. It was just that bad by then that I couldn't even follow it. I knew it was coming. I knew there was no comeback in that storybook. And so, that's it. I went on playing video games. That's what I did. Maybe you say, hey, I'm not a good fan, but I'm not gonna. I wasn't gonna sit through that torture. I can tell that this season is gonna be more of that. I don't. There's no way to fix this. There is a way for it to not look as bad if we pull out some wins, but that's worthless in the end. That's only hurting our draft stock. We need an offensive line, and that needs to be the priority. First pick, no matter what it is. If it's the first pick overall, it needs to be an offensive lineman. It needs to be the best offensive lineman, and I think we need to bring in as many offensive linemen as possible. That defensive line, you can pick up acorns, you can do stuff to bring people in. Offensive linemen are so difficult to find, and it's evidenced by the current status of the team. Like we need it. We need to bring people in and just like do something more than we've been doing. What Chris Grier and company have been doing up to this point is just not sufficient, hasn't worked, and likely won't work moving forward. I think that Tyreek Hill transformed this team, and Tyreek Hill fell into Chris Grier's lap, kind of like Laramie Tunsil did. So it means that to me, that the best things that ever happened to this team most recently were flukes or luck. That's everything to me. It's letting me know that Chris Grier isn't worth a shit. he thinks he can use second rounders to pick offensive linemen, and he fails often. He hasn't done it once. If we get lucky, maybe Patrick Paul is that, but that's not. I'm not gonna hold my breath. Liam Eichenberg is a walking turnstile, Swiss cheese. Like whatever. I couldn't do better, so I'm not trying to say that, but I'm saying as far as offensive linemen, like no, an NFL grade offensive lineman, no, he just doesn't cut it. And neither do a lot of guys that we pick up. And Jonas Avainaye right now just doesn't look good either. And but whatever, give the guy time. He's a rookie, whatever it is. But still, like it shouldn't have been a second round pick. It should have been a first round pick. We should not have gone for a DT that was a low impact position. You can tell because look how much of an impact he's made up to this point. So like there was just a lot to be desired with this team, with this draft. And when I saw this draft, I saw that we there was no future, there was no change. Like maybe I thought like, hey, if we have a decent draft, that could definitely change the team. When I saw the draft, I was like, no, this is the same team. This team is no better. Is no better. They did not focus on the offensive line like they should have. There should have been a complete overhaul. Even now, there still needs to be one. And I'm just not sure it'll happen next year if Chris Grier is here. If he's making those calls or he's even in the office. I heard that in the scouting department for Chris Grier, recently read this on a Dolphins message board. They said that they spoke with, I don't know who it was, the Sansano guy. I don't care about the sportscasters, to be honest, in South Florida. I think they're all horrible except for that one podcast that I do listen to that I'm a huge fan of, even though they're a bit homers too. I think his name is David Hyde. He wrote a piece talking about the scouting department for the Miami Dolphins. He says that the Miami Dolphins scouting department director is still Chris Grier. And so basically he's GM and the scouting director head. Like I think just if that's the case, like come on, think about how bad this team has been for how long, and he's been leading the scouting department the whole time. I'm telling you, I think at this point, like it's negligence. I would ask for them to be investigated, RICO, federal style, for potential manipulation of games, because how can you be that bad so consistently and literally still have a job when most jobs would have turned over 3 times by now. Like there's issues. We're keeping this man in work, and he is year in and year out just putting up a shit product. Other than when I told you when we did well, we put up those 70 points, but like man, that's already been years. I don't even remember if it was 2022 or 2023. It's been that long already. So it's just like I think that we need to do something, man. We need to make a move. The Dolphins are making me cry every fucking week, and I'm done with it. Ugh. I think I'm gonna smoke a little bit. See if I can. I don't know. Look at that. I feel all stressed and shit. Dolphins making me stressed. Let's see if a little weed is exactly what we need. Yeah, like I said, thank you guys. If you're actually listening to this is funny. This is my hobby. I have fun. I just talk, and if you guys are actually listening and enjoying it, man, oh, awesome! I love it. I mostly wanted to do this podcast because I also feel like throughout the years I've been right on a lot of things, and I've been pessimistic, and people label me pessimistic, but how can you be optimistic about a team that's been so bad for so long? Like it just would be blind faith and ignorance to think that things are just going to fix when you like do half measures and you don't properly address things. But then you have media who like is just constantly supporting these mediocre moves, like drafting Jonas Savaiinai in the second round, even trading up for him. Like what? That's just it was a bad move. Kenneth Grant in the first round was a bad draft pick. It was a draft full of defensive tackles that went right after him and throughout the rounds. I remember because I watched that almost that whole draft. It was filled with DTs. It was a bad pick. That was the first bad pick. The first pick for the Miami Dolphins should have been Tyler Warren, tight end. You know, literally we gave up Jonas Smith. Tyler Warren is so big that he is a good blocker. He's going to be a good blocker because like he's just exactly like what you need at the end of a bad offensive line or of an offensive line that you want to be good because the Dolphins are a running team. Pass all you want. If we can't run the ball, we can't pass the ball. The pressure's too quick. So when you need like an offensive line that is physical, nasty, and is going to get you running yards, you can tell that the offensive line is the problem with the running game because if you look at when Devon Achan gets the ball out in the flat, that's what his best gains when he has open field in front of him. And there's literally never any open field down the middle for him. There's no holes. The Dolphins don't open up any holes, man. And they give no stop, no push whatsoever. Like I just never seen it. I've seen it in the past, but I'm saying like I haven't seen it anytime recently. Like just no time to throw. And I think that is ultimately what's dooming Tua and McDaniel. Because McDaniel's not a bad coach, but there's so much pressure on him. I feel bad, man. I hear that guy speak. He stutters like crazy because he's trying to word everything perfectly, not get eaten alive because he's got so much pressure on him. Like that is not conducive to winning football games. Just having that pressure on you is not conducive to winning football games because it makes you think about that, prefacing everything, how people are going to interpret everything. I know that in this day and age with the media, you have to know that, but it's still like I think that it's crippling possibly his confidence. At this point, I just don't see this front office doing what needs to be done. What? Like let's say they did. What would they need to do? They would need to overhaul the offensive line this offseason by drafting the best possible offensive lineman they can get. Use as much money as you can to get a good offensive lineman and get a first round pick. Also, use it on an offensive lineman. Make a trade for an offensive lineman. Trust me, if we can just keep doing that and get depth, you don't need five starters. You need more. This is offensive linemen go down all of the time. They're big fat boys. There's a lot of pressure on their joints, on their muscles. They get hurt more often. It just happens that way. And I see it. I see it all the time. All of those guys up front always get hurt more often. That means that you need to have like contingency plans, especially for the offensive line. So you need five good offensive linemen. You need at least one backup that can play swing tackle, play either position that can be at least decent. Like that's ideal. You have that type of offensive line is like the Dallas Cowboys offensive line from a few years back or the Philadelphia Eagles offensive line. But I think that the reason why I mention that is because I am a real believer that if you were to put Tua Tagovailoa behind the Philadelphia Eagles offensive line, he would be a stud. And you could give him pretty much any wide receivers, because he's going to have so much time to pick people apart. I don't think that his arm, he doesn't have the strongest arm, but I don't think that's an issue. Like, you just have to give him time. If you're forcing him to make first read throws deep, come on, think about that. It's ridiculous. You have to have such a sense of the game and honestly, even if you have a good sense for the game, if the coverage isn't there, it's not there, and that's almost never going to be there. You have to run the ball well, establish the run, so the safeties can creep up, and Tyreek Hill can go deep. If those safeties don't creep up, then Tyreek Hill never gets to go deep. That's just how it is. I want to keep going and just keep talking, but I'm going to hit this button a little bit first. Yeah, because like I can get in it. I can get it, especially about the Dolphins, right? I think I know that some of y'all listen to this. If you're still listening, You know what I'm talking about. This is what we've been doing this whole fucking time, going through. You know, the Dolphins, man, they make you fucking suffer. They make you earn it. I'm holding on, dog, because I know that if they ever win the Super Bowl, yo, that shit, that was a long journey. I didn't give up for it. Because I'm telling you, it's just like I'm seeing. I have a friend who used to be a Dolphins fan, and he quit and he became a Jets fan. First of all, what a fucking idiot to do that. You're gonna go from one bad team to possibly the only worse team than them or one of them. Come on, that's retarded. Well, that's R worded, okay? Whatever that is. Yeah, yeah. You're gonna fucking quit, become a like a fan of a good ass team and shit. Like I don't know, Kansas City, Philadelphia, somebody good, not fucking uh, the Browns and shit. Like what? You're gonna go back? Yeah, come on. I just think that the best course of action is to immediately replace the GM. Who will undoubtedly, if he's worth any shits, and had nothing to do with Chris Grier. If it was a Chris Grier led hire, like if somehow Chris Grier hires his, successor, that will be another fail. That guy just doesn't have that type of talent. I think that we need to let him go completely and completely reform the entire franchise from the scouting department to the players, the coach, the GM. Everyone needs to just change, and we need to find a formula that is good and conducive to winning football. I really think that's physicality, that's having big, beefy, strong offensive line, durable offensive linemen and defensive linemen. And I think that everything else kind of works out. I think if you have a good offensive lineman and a good quarterback, you can have anything you want at the other positions pretty much. That quarterback will make it work. You can't have whatever. You can't have bumps. But in the NFL, everyone has talent. Like if you let the worst guy, the worst starter in the NFL do you bad, he'll do you bad. Like he will score on you. He will make you look a fool. Like who do you want? Jakeem Grant? Give him a chance. He'll do it. So like anyone will do it. Jakeem Grant is gone, I know, but I'm just saying like anyone you think that can ball will ball in the NFL. Those guys are tried and true. They've gone through high school, college, balling, and that's how they got to that level. And they will ball. It's just when they're up against other pros, they get beat. When you get matched up with someone better, you ain't gonna be as good. That's why Jakeem Grant wasn't a world beater. He was just fast as hell. But because the other guys there, not because they were faster, the other guys there were, had good coverage, found ways to, limit him. He also had stone hands, which just didn't hurt. I mean, or help him at least. It is what it is. Poor old Jakeem catching strays. My bad, dog. Um, it is what it is. You know. I gotta go soon, man. I gotta play some video games. But man, I'm telling you, this is soothing for me. This is like my therapy. This is Dolphins therapy, is what it should be called. The doctor is in, and we're gonna just talk about how the Dolphins have hurt me recently. And these motherfuckers need to pay. Okay, I'm sorry. I got too crazy there. They just need to fucking make it right, bro. Just fucking get some good motherfuckers to play, dog. That's all I want. That's all I want. That's not crazy. You know what's crazy though? I've always thought that said that this team has like the worst linebackers, but these linebackers that we have now, Dodson and Brooks, they don't seem that bad. If we had a decent front line in front of them, I like Dodson more than anything. I think he's got a ball for the nose. Jordan Brooks is crazy, but I just feel like he's out of place a lot often. That's why he's always around the ball because they get throwing it to him. I just don't. I've seen that Dotson and Brooks both have a shit ton of tackles, but I've looked at the other tackle leaders and they're all on bad teams. Like it doesn't seem like being a leader in tackles is really a great stat. Maybe they're just being benefited, like, or those stat bumps are being benefited just from how many tackles they've had to make because they've been on the field so often, and the dog because the offense has been so bad and has been able to literally keep the defense off the field. Um, who knows? All I know is that I do think that Dotson and Brooks is better than most of the other linebackers that we had prior, especially like David Long. Like I think that they're a step up from that. They're more physical, so at least we have that. Um, I know Dotson just seems like he's a better, more aware linebacker than most that we've had, and I think that he behind in a good defense he could be a good player. Our secondary looks bad, man. Like just amateurish. Like guys that shouldn't be starting are starting. And Minka can't do everything, man. And I see him; he's trying. It's just like it doesn't matter how good of a player you are if the other team always has the advantage and is more physical. Man, you're gonna get overworked. You get me very easily by several. Like you can't beat everyone. No one's a world beater. And I just don't think that he's going to shine in this defense either. I don't like Anthony Weaver. I just don't see anything special about him. You know what I think about him more than anything? He'd possibly be a good coach, a good head coach. But like is calling the defense? Nah, man. I just don't see it either. I don't see anything special there. I don't know what it is why they can't get open. The defensive ends they look like they just get blocked and when they get blocked they get swallowed up. I know they got swallowed up by Indy. I could not they could not shake loose. And I just think I don't know. This team seems like it's capable of it. That defense does that front seven, but I don't know. It's not as fluid. I think a lot of those guys we have to come to reality that maybe Jalen Phillips isn't what he used to be. He's gone through so many operations, man, and he's just coming back from another one. Like it's maybe he's just not explosive or as explosive, or maybe he just is still regaining form. That could be true. The same thing with Bradley Chubb. He also just came back from an Achilles tear. But even though he's got the most sacks on the team, he's actually not doing bad. So and then you have Chop. So like let's hope Chop that he doesn't get injured or anything like that. God, please don't come to fruition. You know. Yeah. So the front seven is all right. The DT, I don't know. The interior linemen leave a lot to be desired, including the first round pick, Kenneth Grant. I don't know. I don't know what we're gonna do there. Well, he's gonna be with us, obviously. So hoping he develops. That's all. I hope I'm wrong. I just haven't seen anything crazy special from him. Hopefully, I'm wrong, and he proved me wrong. Um, I loved Christian Wilkins, even though I hated the pick because he's a DT and it's a not it's a low impact position. But he actually made such a high impact on it that he made me, kind of change my tune on that. He was very productive as a DT. He was very effective getting to the pass rusher, but like he was an outlier. I mean, he was good at getting to the quarterback. He was good as a pass rusher. But yeah, like I said, that sack getting DT, QB pressure getting DT. That's not a common thing, and I think maybe it was foolhardy to think that we would get another guy like that in Kenneth Grant. And I just don't think he was ever going to be that. Like he's not that guy. He's like a NT nose tackle, like big boy who's not gonna rush the quarterback. He's gonna be clogging up the middle. So maybe that is what he is, but I don't know. I don't see the fruits of that pick right now. I don't think we should have gone first round with that. I do think that there were other people other picks that we could have done. The linebacker Walker from Georgia. There was just, looking back, I don't know. I don't like to do the 2020, but while I was in there, because I do every draft live, like it's just sad. I'm actually, I just thought about it. I'm gonna look up my fantasy sports, what mock drafts I put out. I'm gonna do that. Oh shit. I don't know if I should do it this episode. Maybe it's too late because I'm in it now and I'm lit as shit. I think I'm just actually gonna let go for a bit and play some video games and let this be the third episode for now. We like wait. Actually, maybe I should. What's Thursday night? What's the football? What is the game tonight? Let me give a prediction on the game. Maybe I'll do the Dolphins too. Yeah. In case I don't put out another episode, I like to put an episode out a week because it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work to not only record, to have time, as I work a regular job, and it's also just you got to edit it, and create it, and there's so much stuff that you don't see. You got to do it just for it to be decent. A podcast, I mean, so like yeah, it's fun. And all right, let's see what this shit is. The best thing about this type of podcast is that I get to curse and I don't have fucking anyone telling me, hey, don't say this. Nah, bitch, I already said the R word. So, retarded. Yeah, that's the word. Don't hate me, okay? I am retarded. To a collapse back at criticism from Cam. Oh, snap. Seattle versus Arizona. Man, I don't know. I think Arizona has the better quarterback. Um, but the Seahawks, man, they find ways to win, and they're a physical team. I that's what I mean. I think physical teams are better. They're gonna last longer in the playoffs. I think Seattle wins this. If I had to say how much, I'll go 32 to no 24 to like 16. I want to say more like 32-28, but whatever. Seattle, of course. And but Arizona, man, they're a good team. I think that once Marvin Harrison Jr. gets over his yips, I think they're gonna be a good team. And he's gonna be a good player. I saw him ball out against the Dolphins. I know he can. He's got it in him. I think that the problem with him is he's a young man and he's really caught up in the social media and what the news thinks, ESPN, the analysis of it. I think that once he gets over that, I hope he gets over that. But I think once he does, he will be a stud, an absolute stud. So let's hope. I wish only good on people, not bad here. Only Chris Grier is only getting down talked here. I'm telling you, I'll refrain from saying some of the things I've said in private, but yeah, like there's no love lost here with freaking Chris Grier. Um, who do we play this week? Who the fuck is it? Oh my god, we played the Jets. We gonna lose this game, dog. We gonna lose this game. I'm calling this one, man. I hope it's an ass whooping. Because if an 0-3 team whoops our ass, woo, that's gonna be fun on fucking Tuesday when people are talking about that. That's hopefully head chopping day. Because if we lose 32-16 to the Jets, like it's time, dog. Just pull the plug. Pull that fucking plug. I'll be honest, their record isn't indicative of how good they've been. They've been in every game that they've played, pretty much. Or at least that I've seen. They and they're their overall record is dependent on Justin Fields' health. You know, it's just that's the way that it goes. That guy's a superstar. He's good. He's fast. He can. They don't have anything behind him. I don't think Tyrod Taylor is really it. But he's a serviceable backup. That's the worst part. Like I think Tyrod Taylor is historically a Dolphins killer. He's whooped our ass every time. Every time. He's good against us. So I've if it's Tyrod Taylor against the Dolphins, we will lose. I'm calling that one, and I'm hoping it, to be honest, because any win from here on out is just hurting draft stock. I'm sorry, I'm that type of fan. We're already out of it, and even if we were in it, there's no way we win in the playoffs. We're not going to win that. We're not, and I think that you pull the plug and you reset as hard as you can, and that's it. And you don't let go of certain pieces. Look, fucking Tyreek Hill is still a weapon. People wanting to get rid of him, man. Even at the money that he makes, he is a great player. You put a good quarterback with him, with a decent offensive line, and they will ball. That guy is going to ball. You give him to the Kansas City Chiefs, and he is going to catch bombs. I'm telling you, I know it. So I don't blame the team for the lack of success, the players. I blame the GM for getting bad offensive linemen. Our offensive linemen are mediocre. And I can say that easily, I think, because I've never met these men face to face. A lot of these media members, they face these men when they go interview them. And I think that that's the reason why they probably don't say the truth, because if they do, like those people see you, they will fuck you up. Like it's. I don't give a shit if it's just a shove, a punch, whatever. Yo, I'm fragile. You hit me. If I said shit about Jalen Phillips, and he fucking hit me, my fucking chest would cave in and explode. Like this guy is a fucking man freak. Even if it was just a little, be careful, little nudge. That's a hard ass nudge, man. I don't want that. I ain't trying to get that. Nobody is. Whatever. It is what it is. But like, I'm not saying Jalen Phillips is washed. I'm just saying that, there's until he proves us otherwise, he needs to produce so he can show us otherwise. I don't want him to be washed. I want him to be a Hall of Famer, even still. Being the Dolphins, Ring of Honor. Like that. I'm okay with that. Like I want that for him, but I hope it happens instead of more of what's happened this year. At least from this fucking team. This team is just straight garbage, and that offensive line needs to be revamped. All right, I think that's enough of me ranting on these fucking shit ass Dolphins. If you actually listen to this, man, I don't know. You want more? No, just kidding. You don't have to ask. I'm gonna do it anyway. So have fun. You hit me up if you like this. I'm trying to get on this Tobin and Leroy podcast. See if I speak with them for a little bit. I don't know. I don't know if they'll have me, but I would welcome it. I would welcome it. I'll call in and just talk some shit because I'm just out here on my own, like by myself on an island. This shit is crazy. It's not easy to come up and be witty all the time. When I'm just talking to myself, it's literally like a maniac right now. I feel like I psycho. When the fuck do I talk about myself or by myself? I gotta go. My dog is acting a fool. He's like, Dad, get the hell over here. All right. Later, buddies. You be easy. Hope you like the show. So Flo Spos.